Don't miss any of the action at Oceanside, Chula Vista, Torrey Pines, and many more San Diego schools. Download the free UT Preps app on Google Play or the Apple App Store.
Welcome into Canyonside Baseball and Softball Academy. Tommy, David, and Christian here for our San Diego Prep Insider Baseball podcast, guys. League season's getting underway. We're about midway through. We're excited. Any thoughts so far right off the bat?
Some upsets.
It's been fun making the top 10 this week.
Oh yeah, I had a very difficult time with mine. I'll start with mine, then Dave, you can give yours. Number 10, breaking into my list for the first time, I got Helix. Number 9, Santana. 8, Carlsbad. 7, Granite Hills. 6, Torrey Pines had a good week against RB. 5, Vista. 4, Rancho Bernardo out of the number 1 spot. 3 is Cathedral. 2 is La Costa Canyon. And number 1, I know not a lot of people have this, Eastlake at number 1. Dave, what do you have?
Good pick. All right, number 1 for me this week, LCC gets the nod again. Number 2, Eastlake. 3, RB. 4, Torrey Pines. 5, Vista. 6, Cathedral. 7, Granite Hills. And the last 3, rounding out, 8, St. Augustine. 9, Carlsbad. And 10, Coronado. One thing I'm going to add in today, I got a little notable section. Hard for me to do the top 10, so I want to note Grossmont, Santana, Poway is playing really good ball. They've starting to get up there. Helix and La Jolla are also right on the verge of breaking into my top 10.
Yeah, we were just talking about this, right before we started filming. The top 10 was really hard to make this week. And not just the teams towards the back. I mean, anywhere from like 3 to 15. Right. I mean, those teams are super bunch. What do you think, Christian?
I think that we are only getting harder and harder to do this because league sometimes yields us runaway champions, but this time it's been a lot of teams taking each other out, a lot of, well, this team beat that team, but they beat them, and it's becoming an interesting leapfrog situation that thankfully we have the playoffs to help settle this all right. I want to throw one team, though, into my notables, if you will. I think Montgomery is kind of on that bubble of when their best lineup is out there, they could compete with anybody.
Yeah, and they're one of those teams, when you look at the top teams in the county, it's a frequent, oh my gosh, they lost Montgomery, but at the same time, Montgomery's lost some games that they probably should not have. So they're a team that might sneak in that top 10. So going back to last week, looking back, game balls. Dave, who had a good week last week?
Well, like we said, Torrey Pines, that was a really good week for them. I've got Kyle Hurt through 6 innings against RB, also hit a dinger. I've got Nick Allen, shortstop at Francis Parker. He went 4 for 5 with 4 doubles and 3 runs against Santa Fe Christian. Have a day. Another Parker infielder, third baseman Michael Campagna. He had his first high school home run of his career. First of many. You'll be hearing about him for a long time. And last few, Brendan Rubens. Got to see him at Petco Park last week. He's a pitcher at San Diego Jewish Academy at 14 Ks against Maranatha, blowing it by him. And this week, got to see Poway upset Torrey Pines 7-6 in the last inning and throw a game ball out to the whole offense.
Yes.
And a few guys in particular, Ryan Gagliano got the rally started in the 7th, and Sloan Blanchett, hope I pronounced that right, with the walk-off for those guys. So congrats to you guys on the win this week.
And I want to add one more thing about Nick Allen. Nick, you almost hit a homer at Petco Park. I don't know if that's happened in the high school series yet. It probably, maybe, not, to my knowledge, it hasn't happened
I haven't seen one.
But very close to pulling it out there in left field. Christian, who's on your game ball list?
I'm going to throw Connor Penn onto my game ball list, starting pitcher at Rancho Bernardo. He held Westview to a big old goose egg. And that is always my favorite type of game ball to give out to, is talk about blowing it by. Pitchers, when you go out there and throw not just a quality start but a shutout, you get a game ball. I just want to go back though real quick to, you're talking about that Poway win against Torrey Pines. In the same sentence, you were talking earlier about what a week for Torrey Pines. And that just shows you how hard that top 10 is to bring kind of everything in a circular. Is Torrey Pines goes out, has a great week, then gets walked off on in a dramatic fashion. And that's why this has just been such a fun season, is everything's been going back and forth.
Totally.
Yeah, it's, again, a lot of really good teams this year. It's been really hard to sort everything out, and that's why we're so excited for playoffs. Speaking of playoffs, we have a very playoff-themed fair or foul for this week. First question, Christian, we'll start with you. First statement, sorry. Vista currently ranked number 14 in the Division I Power Rankings. However, if you look at our list and some other lists around the county, they're well in the top 10, in most cases in the top 5. So Vista is getting shortchanged by the power rankings system.
I'll say fair on this, that they are getting shortchanged. To me, Vista represents kind of an interesting place in how teams are put together and how teams are ranked, because they have a lot of really quality wins, but on the other side of that spectrum, they have a lot of wins that don't garner them a lot of respect or points under the system that CIF puts together.
Right.
So, yes, mathematically you could argue from a purely analytical standpoint that they are not a top 10 team in relation to the formula that the CIF uses. But realistically, if we're just talking baseball, if we're talking shop, there is no way that you're going to say that Vista beating Rancho Bernardo, taking it to teams on the road, getting big wins like that, doesn't put them in the top 10. You got to be kidding me.
Right. What do you think, Dave?
Well, the formula for Max Preps has them out of the top 10 also. So, I mean, I'm going to say fair on that one. I've definitely got them in my top 10 consistently since the beginning of the year. These guys put the ball in play well. They got good pitching, good defense. From what I hear, they're very, very scrappy, and I'm going to put them on my map for the rest of the season until they start showing me that they're losing some of that momentum. But they're definitely playing some good ball right now.
Yeah, and I'll agree, and it's pretty obvious at the number 5, so obviously I agree that they should be within that.
Although I will say just one thing. If I'm Vista, I don't know if I want to be in the top 10. Because I kind of like having that chip on my shoulder going into the stretch run of saying, hey, look, people have been doubting us all season long. People have been hating on us. That gives us that extra fire to come in and walk away with a ring.
And along the same lines of that, you obviously want to get in that top 8 if you're in Division 1, because then you get to play for the Open Division Championship, which is a whole different thing. But is it fair that only Division 1 teams can qualify? Dave, we'll start with you. All teams should be able to get into Open Division regardless of what division they start in. Fair or foul?
Well, I'm going to say fair. I definitely think it's something that you should be able to earn. You know, when you go into the season and you start playing good baseball like that, if you can earn it, I mean, I think you're going to give a team a shot. You know, you look at teams like, you know, the Cathedrals and the Torrey Pineses, they're always going to have that D1, you know, kind of, you know, stamp on their back. But you got to give it to guys like, you know, Santana and Coronado, who are also playing really good baseball outside of the division. Those guys are like Division 3, and you got to give it to them. I mean, they played really good baseball, so I'm thinking that for those guys to get a shot is definitely fair. And as a coach, I want my guys to get a shot, so I don't want to be kind of pegged into a certain division all year.
Christian, what do you think?
I'm going to go with foul. And this is no disrespect to Coronados and Santanas and the lower tier teams that you're talking, or the lower division teams you're talking about. But partially what we're also talking about with those teams is sort of their best could compete maybe at the higher level. But we're not talking about teams that just if you throw them into multiple games worth of an open division playoff, they will continuously have those rotations. So yes, every year we're going to hear about one or two teams outside of Division 1 getting kind of screwed. There's going to be that rallying cry of, oh, we are good enough, we deserve a shot, and maybe you are. But it kind of leapfrogs the integrity of the system to arbitrarily say that, well, just because your number 1 starter and the top tier of your offense could hypothetically compete, we're going to give you this automatic pass to jump up a couple of divisions. If you want to get up to that D1, work out. Coronado, by all means, could be there in 2 years. They just keep winning championships, they'll get moved up. But to say to Coronado, okay, well, you get an exemption this year to leapfrog 25 teams to up to the open division, to me reeks of kind of just a really arbitrary nature that you want to avoid in the playoffs.
My only thing with it is if you have a group of seniors that is really good like Coronado's got, they're not going to get the chance to play in the open division. And you can't, especially public schools, you can't rely on the same type of kids coming through because you have no control over who lives in your district. So that's my only problem with it. But I do get your point. You got to get to that point.
I always want to have a shot.
Right, exactly.
It's tough because you always want to give the best team a shot at winning the title. You would like to say that when it all comes down to it, the best team in the county won. The best team, not just that day, but the best team overall won. But also to me, this kind of diminishes the quality of the other CIF titles. To me, you're saying, well, if Coronado's not in the Open Division Championship, that them winning D3 invalidates that season? I don't see that happening. I see a title is a title.
I think it's more if there's a playoff system at the end of the year and get into a series against a tough team and earn it against them. That's all I'm saying really. If there's a different type of system that were, it's for instance a Coronado versus an RB to finish the season, like a series that determines the division, the open division playoffs, because they won the D3. Maybe you have a D3 versus a D2 kind of matchup, something like that, just something to kind of keep it interesting.
It's interesting also, if you'll allow me just
Go
one last thing.
Yeah, one last thing.
This is not the only sport we've talked about this in.
Right.
It's something that across the board, all teams always have an argument somehow. So it's one of those things that ultimately you just kind of have to pick a formula, and that's how we stick to it. I'm sorry that some people get kind of pushed aside, but
I will say this is a positive for the CF formula. There's a lot less fighting because it's cut and dry. You're in, you're out. There's no getting away from all the political talk. We got to highlight some players now. We're going to talk about the third baseman in San Diego County who deserve to have people watch them, check them out.
the hot kids at the hot corner.
The hot kids at the hot corner. Yeah, Dave, we'll start with you. Who
All right,
are your
cool.
top third basemen?
So I got Zach Stronach at Helix. This guy's got a 4.5 GPA. Just want to make sure everyone knew that. That's very impressive.
Well, and it explains why he's going to
UCLA commit. That's probably his most impressive stat, 4.5 GPA. Cole Mueller, Cathedral Catholic. This guy's man in the hot corner, committed to UCSB. Zach Sherman over at Ramona, committed to Long Beach State. And my last third baseman, Zach Kolick at Madison. From what I hear, is the most consistent hitter on that team, and he's just about ready to commit. So hopefully we'll have some news for you on that next show.
I'm going to just throw one name out there, Cyrus Fullen at St. Augustine. He is the epitome of what I like to call a BGP, a big game player. This kid does not have the flashy 500 batting average. Don't know his GPA, it's probably pretty good. But he's the kind of kid who, every time I've seen him step up into the plate late in the game, he comes through actually. And that's not something that you see always with the player. Sometimes you'll see that guy kind of step back, kind of fade when the game is absolutely on the line. He got a walk-off against Grossmont. He's turned a couple huge double plays late in the game. He's that kind of kid that you can count on as just being a rock. So I'm going to throw him into the mix.
Should be a stat for clutch factor.
Oh, absolutely. In the world of analytics we live in, why you can't measure a guy's clutch.
Oh yeah, I'll get my iPad on that. I'll put together a little algorithm.
We'll get our stats department.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna go with Connor McKenna here. I gotta add him to the list from Carlsbad. Great player. They just wrote an article about him in the UT about how he had a knee injury. He had a kind of decision to make this year. Do I play through it? Do I get the surgery? Think about the future. Decided to play through it. He's having a great year this year on a very good Carlsbad team that has consistently been in our top 10, and in my opinion, a pleasant surprise in North County. So gotta add Connor to the list.
And that's rare to hear of the decision to play through an injury turning out well. Usually that turns into a mediocre, forgettable campaign.
Right.
But good for him.
Worked hard, got himself back on the field, and congrats to you, man.
So we will work hard to continue to put together our top 10 list, our game balls, everything, and we will have that for you next week. So we will see you then.